Welcome to the Expired Podcast by Macy Bookout and Natalie Gard. This week's episode is on the Solomon family.
Here goes nothing.
Okay. I was on TV today. You're like, whoop-de frickin' do.
For the doing the news is fun though.
It was fun.
For the dancing.
Yep.
You should tell them about it.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to do Dancing with the Stars. It's happening on March 11th at the Convention Center. This is for primary health care. They help kids and families like with healthcare that they couldn't afford.
Mm-hmm.
They're also in schools like in Catoosa County and Walker County, and those are both counties that I grew up going to school in. And just the stories that come out of Dancing with the Stars, and they're like, one family was able to get 2 or 3 of their children eyewear, like glasses, that they could not afford.
No, because that stuff's expensive.
I know, and if you think, I mean, $100-$200 for glasses, and they wouldn't have been able to see. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to
Good
support,
for you.
yeah, it's so
she's
fun.
been learning to dance for the past little while, actually.
Yes, yeah, a couple months. We're gonna do the swing.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's
really
so
fun.
Fast and so hard, but it's
a good workout.
Oh my gosh! Not only for your body, but for your brain too.
Yeah,
because you have to remember everything, and
you gotta get like some sort of confidence too to like, it's one of those. If you feel like you look ridiculous, you're doing it right.
I know, and that's what
you have to over exaggerate.
And then you got to overcome that feeling so awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's March 11th. You can donate. I'll put a link in the captions.
Yeah, go donate anything you can.
Yes, thank you. Good cause. Things that matter.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I just love when people do crazy things for the goodness of everyone.
Yeah,
something to celebrate.
It is something. So it'll be fun, but this case is not so fun. It's a lot of work.
This case is crazy.
There's a lot to go over. So I think this is going to be a 3-part episode. And we're going to try and come out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So if you're hearing this on Monday, come back Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have new episodes out Tuesday and Wednesday. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Angie and Aaron Solomon. So we're going to go over like the timeline of this family and really focus in on like custody issues and divorce and just pretty much go through
kind of like the household.
Yeah.
And timeline of the family and a household and marriage, kind of.
Then next episode, we'll go over the deaths that involved in this case when it comes to one of the members of this family. And then we're going to go over, in the 3rd episode, allegations, foundations, different things that have come out.
Probably more later. of our opinions on it.
Right, because this is all alleged.
Yeah.
100%, no one has been convicted of any crime, and as we say at the end of every episode,
no one's been charged.
Yes, as we say at the end of every episode, everyone is proven innocent everyone is innocent until proven guilty.
Yes. I don't even think there's only one thing where any sort of investigation was ever even done, and it was something completely separate from the death.
Right.
So at this point in time, there is no investigation. There hasn't been one.
And it's really hard to find information on this case.
Yes. Everything that we discuss, we're going to try, especially in this first episode, to just go through the main foundation timeline. Or in this first episode, just go through the main foundation timeline, and then just bear with us.
Yeah.
It's gonna be there's so much. So, and again, no one's been charged or convicted. So
all that we say is alleged, and all that we say is pretty much our opinion. We're going to stick to the facts of, things we've read and articles we found.
Evidence that we do have, or things that we do discuss. say, whether it be an audio recording or a medical report or something that we have proof that someone actually said, we will obviously share that, but we're going to try and also be very careful to make sure that anything that we just think or feel or kind of are making sense of in our own minds, that we kind of call that out before we share it, so that nothing is confused from fact and opinion.
Right. So Angie and Aaron Solomon, they met. Angie was a pharmacist and he was a news anchor. And this all happened in Franklin, Tennessee, in Hawkins County. They kind of it was like a whirlwind a little bit because she fell pregnant about 6 weeks after they started dating. So it was like a lot of people in the South, if you've become pregnant, a lot of people will encourage you to get married, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
So
going to the altar and we're gonna get married because you're pregnant.
Yeah.
That's usually how. I don't feel like it can still be very severe right in today's world, but I feel like it's getting better.
Oh yeah.
But even like early 2000s when they did get married, like
it would have been
pretty. I mean, I got pregnant with Bentley in 2008, and I by no means was pressured, but by all accounts felt like that's what I needed to do.
Encouraged to do so.
Yeah, not necessarily for my parents though.
I got you.
I think they were totally okay if I did not get married.
Okay.
Just but so okay, if that's what we wanted to do too. But so, and that was in 2008. So this was in 2002. Even before then, it's pretty
in a prominent town such as Franklin, right outside of Nashville.
Big money.
Yeah.
Old money.
Yeah.
Farm money. All the money.
All the monies. So they get married, and their son Grant was born June 13th of that same year in 2002. And this is when Aaron changes after Grant was born. Fatherhood's not for everybody.
Right. There's, a lot of people close to him, but then also with Angie, a lot of people have reported and alleged that after Grant was born, he became very controlling and manipulative, abusive, mentally, emotionally abusive, kind of just, I don't know, I think having a kid and getting married and all the things all of a sudden, because it all happened so quickly.
He's like crying out for help.
Yeah. And I would say too, at this point, I don't want to call it a midlife crisis, but when things like that start happening, big things in life start happening very quickly, I feel like it takes a little bit to get used to your new situation and your new life and what's expected of you and your responsibilities. But I think it took a turn to the darker side rather than just being kind of emotionally distraught or anxiety and depression. It more went to
being mad.
Anger, and I feel like that's kind of when he began to show some narcissistic tendencies.
Traits. Yeah. So after Grant is born, 4 years later, Gracie is born. She's born October 17th, 2006. And we were just discussing this before we started recording. You said, so I was like, my mom's dying for me to have babies. And you're like, your life changes not only when you have your first baby, but then you have your second baby, it changes all over again. And if you have more children, it changes all over again. And that's kind of what happened with this. Aaron he changed after Grant, and he changed again, like more drastically this time when it came to his daughter.
Yeah, I think the daughter and the wife, and at this point, even the son, had shared that the abuse had continued, like the mental, emotional abuse, the controlling behavior. And then also at this time, after Gracie was born, Angie started to kind of find out a little bit about the cheating and just affairs and stuff that might have been going on in their marriage. And people that knew them at the time had said that the dad kind of became really protective and controlling over Gracie. Like,
Yeah, it's like he
he was like
transplanted his controlling over Angie
to the
to
daughter,
right.
and almost like despised his son and his wife.
Yeah,
And really like obsession with his daughter, and then just anger, and like they were in the way
right.
toward the son and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
So it elevated. It had continued, and then when Gracie was born, it had elevated, and um, more sporadic behavior kind of started happening, and then cheating, and then kind of the obsession with the daughter started.
And there were allegations of just lots of things, that it just got worse. It just seemed to get worse and worse in those 4 years. There was a lot that happened, a lot of change happened, and so someone who likes to control things or be in the center of all things
Mm-hmm.
and all these different things changing, I could feel that anxiety for him as when it comes to him.
Yeah, I think I think there are so many big things happening and changes happening, and again responsibilities and stuff, that being in the South, being in a community such as Franklin, and the stature that you are held at.
And he's a news anchor, so he's on TV, so he's like a local celebrity.
Right. People know him. People expect a lot from him. I think he probably needed some sort of help.
Yeah.
From like a therapy standpoint,
mm-hmm.
but probably didn't even realize that. And if he did, had no idea how to go about that or ask
or even want
to, because he's a man in the South and you're not supposed to, that's not okay. I don't know who made those rules up.
I don't know either.
But they're not actual rules.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of sought escape elsewhere, like in more of a bad behavior type of way.
Yeah. Even worse, because in 2008, Angie, she learns about, all these affairs. She's learned about some hiring of sex workers. She's learned about
allegations for him like grooming underage girls that attended their church and their kids' school.
And I want to mention this here. Erin was a longtime member, a chairperson on this foundation called Our Children Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And Our Children Tennessee directly helps children who have been abused, whether that be physically, sexually, emotionally. He was on that board for a long time.
Too, that deals with kind of rehabilitation, a sort of rehabilitation for kids that have been like rescued from sex trafficking situations. And yeah, I've been a board member for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do you feel? Like, what's your opinion on that? Because if the allegations and things that Angie experienced as far as learning about different affairs and cheating and then hiring sex workers and grooming underage girls, I want to know, do you think that those behaviors were something that he was already doing or previously involved in? Or do you think that maybe being exposed to those kinds of things through that nonprofit opened his eyes to that world.
It probably definitely helped him continue his bad behavior when it comes to the organization he was a part of. But, every episode of like Law and Order SVU or whatever, you hear about these really prominent people who are supposed to be helping a certain group of people, and they end up being like
the culprit,
hurting that same group of people. So it doesn't surprise me. I definitely think him being a part of it, being a chairperson, helped him get into it more.
Yeah. And or
learn from it.
Did not help his previous thoughts, feelings, or situation as it pertains to that behavior.
Yeah. So for years he's getting away with from 2002 to 2011, he's just getting into more and more trouble. And the kids and wife are sticking around, but they're so controlled they might not even realize. So in 2011, this is kind of when everything goes to a head, and I thought this was interesting because he steps down from news to become a financial advisor. He says he steps down and walks away from it. Now, Angie claims that he was fired because some things were found on his work computer and phone. So very
inappropriate content.
Yeah.
And I think he was such a long time standing news anchor, reporter in the morning, but also sports, like all kinds of stuff in Nashville, which is a very big city. I think they probably were like, hey, we need you to step down because that looks better for everyone. And if you don't, we have to fire you.
Or do you think, what's your opinion on, do you think he was like, I'm going to try and save face before anybody really finds out, so I'm going to step down?
No, well, that's a possibility. I think the only reason I'm feeling like he was probably asked to is simply because you know how people are about their news people, and you're on our radio, like people are used to hearing you. Like they don't want to hear somebody else. Like your voice is their comfort for that time of day. News, like at their face, like you get your news from them. You want to hear this morning's, this day's thing.
People get attached to people.
And it becomes a part of everyone's schedule. It becomes a part of the routine. It helps get the day started or in the day or eat lunch and enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Like their drive to work or when they're getting ready for work at home on the TV. So the fact that nothing else is listed, I think being in that community, in my opinion, it would only serve him a higher, better, more prominent purpose to stay on the news, especially as Nashville's grown so much in the last 20 years. Like, I don't think he would lead. I don't think he had any reason to, or any reason to do it, or any reason to want to do that. So I think it was they asked him to step down in order to protect their reputation because they knew that they could no longer employ him, and to also respect and protect him because he had been a long time employee.
Yeah, I could see that.
Plus with the people around, like the church and the school and just in that community, in my opinion, a power position would definitely be in the news media. You're talking state representatives, public officials, church headmasters, pastors, old money, big money, arguably probably the richest community in the entire state of Tennessee.
Well, yeah.
He would want to keep that
Yeah.
position. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that position of power
Right.
with the news media. So
Right.
I don't foresee,
You don't think he walked away from it without a fight?
I don't think he fought. I just don't, I think
he didn't just walk away.
Right. I think he was asked.
Yeah.
And based off of what we know to this point, he wouldn't have walked away if his wife asked him to, in my opinion.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like if it was better for their family, if she found out about the cheating and stuff and she's afraid of it, to me, I feel like he's not going to leave that position for it to be better for his family and his marriage.
Right. I could see that. Yeah. No. It sounds like his personality.
Opinion, but
yeah. But, you know, it sounds like his opinion or his personality, you know, to control things. And that's what we've seen in the past. So 2011, he steps down at the news. He goes to be a financial advisor. And 2 years after, on May 9th, 2013, Angie is strangled by Aaron with her hairdryer cord, and her son Grant walks in and kind of stops it.
Yeah. And at this time, Aaron actually calls 911 and claims Angie and Grant allege that Aaron was strangling her, that he had hit her in the head and then was strangling her. Aaron calls 911 and alleges that Angie was trying to commit suicide.
And mentally ill.
Yes. So she obviously goes to the hospital and is put on like a 24-hour psychiatric hold for them to basically, you know, make sure that if she in fact is suicidal, that she doesn't just go back home to hurt herself.
Right. Making sure that she is
in the right state of mind to be alone, to be in charge of children, that she's not going to harm herself or anyone around her.
She was there less than 24 hours. They saw right through it. I mean, this lady is a doctorate in pharmacy. She's mentally all there and more. You know?
Yeah,
they saw right through the bullshit, and they were like, this lady is fine. Now, they did, when all this happened and, you know, police were there and talking to both of them, they were, you know, obviously told, you know, you should probably be separate. You should get, like, restraining orders or temporary, what is it called? Temporary protection, orders of protection, right?
An order of protection is a restraining order on steroids.
Oh.
So,
yeah, because you were saying that order of protection and
a restraining order
are totally different. And I don't know the difference.
You can get a temporary order of protection, like emergency. So that means that you file it, you state your, like, why it's necessary, and you could even say, I don't want this long term, but it needs to be done for the next 2 weeks or the next month until we can figure out what's going on, or until I can move out of that situation or get somewhere else, you know, find somewhere else to be and remove yourself. Same thing for a restraining order. You can file for a temporary emergency restraining order. Basically, temporary means that it is signed by a judge the day that it is filed until the court date. So you don't have to wait for the court date for a judge to approve it. They can say, okay, it is in place right now. The other party will be notified. And then you both need to show up for court. But it's in place for the next, say, 2 weeks till the court date is, right? So that's like the temporary emergency, like it needs to be put in place immediately, for the safety of all parties, any and all parties. But no criminal, like no one's gonna, unless obviously a crime has happened, no one's gonna get arrested. No one. It's just if if someone violates it, then
Problems happen.
right. It's more for safety, for the well-being of every single person involved. It's similar to if police respond to a domestic dispute and they say, all right, you've got to leave the house tonight. You guys need to be away from each other for 24 hours. We're not afraid you're going to hurt each other, but we've got more serious things to worry about and crimes to go help fix and all the things. So y'all can't call us again, and y'all can't communicate even right now in front of us. So we're going to call a shelter. We're going to get you a place to stay for the night. For 24 hours, you're mandated to stay away from, like, do not come back home.
Yeah.
It's similar to that, just on a higher level.
Yeah, more official kind of level.
Yeah.
So both of them were told this, that they should get protections of orders against each other. But of course, Angie is stuck at the hospital.
Also, order of restraining order. Could be like, you can't be within 50 feet of this person. That means
you can be in the same vicinity,
same facility, the same establishment, the same environment, but you can't be within 50 feet. You still can't. A restraining order, I could call if it's not, if you get a restraining order against me, I can't text you, call you, go to your house, nothing. But say you have roommates and you're not at home and your roommate invites me over, I can go there because your roommate invited me over. I can call your mom and be like, hey, you want to go to lunch? Or, hey, have you talked to Natalie? That's fine. Doesn't matter. Order of protection.
You can't do any of that.
I cannot go where you live. If I show up somewhere and you are there, I have to leave immediately. If I am somewhere and you show up, I have to leave immediately. You are not required to do anything. I have to leave. Crazy. I have to protect myself from going against this order. Right. I cannot call, text you. I cannot comment on your social media. I cannot talk to your family. I cannot call someone and say, hey, tell Natalie she looked cute yesterday. Nothing. Zero. Nada.
The order of protection is worse than a restraining order.
It's gnarly. Yeah. It's a restraining order. It's the restraining order's mom, basically.
That's crazy. Yeah. So orders of protection were taken out on Aaron's
behalf, yeah.
Because Angie is trying to go through a mental evaluation, all while.
And it was for the kids, too. Not just himself.
Right, yeah. So he took out an order of protection.
So she couldn't be around
her kids, her husband, anybody. Oh, that's crazy. So Angie claims that after all of this happened and she was released from the hospital and told there was an order of protection, she went home to find they had moved out. There was nobody there. It was just her in this house. And she couldn't get in touch with anybody either, which I think is crazy. Like, she called, Aaron, called family members.
That's crazy to me because I'm like, how, if she was in the hospital's custody, basically, for the psychiatric hold for, 20 hours or whatever, if he got the order of protection, she should have been presented with that before she left.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's weird.
It is weird. Because, yeah, she expected everyone
to just be at home.
Right.
Because it was almost Mother's Day.
Yeah. And on Mother's Day, she gets a knock at the door after dead silence from everyone, gets a knock at the door, and she's thinking, oh my gosh, it's Mother's Day. Yay. I'm going to get to see my kids, whatever. That is weird because, like you said, the order of protection signed that day. So that's fishy.
Yeah.
But instead of her kids being at the door, it's the police, and Aaron had called the police again. about her and her mental state.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? Like, what a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you on Mother's Day? Anyway, I mean, God bless it. That same weekend he
God
files
forbid
for
she gets one
divorce.
day to herself.
I know. So he files for divorce. The order of protection is in place, and he has custody. He gets custody
He gets
because of
full-blown custody. To add to that too, with this timeline, there were many of the doctors and even the psychiatrists that had evaluated her, not just on the first occasion, but even after, with the claims and all the allegations that Aaron had made about Angie. Many doctors and psychiatrists that had done these evaluations testified in court at the divorce hearing that Angie, in fact, was not suicidal. That she had, I believe, if I'm remembering properly, she did show signs of depression, but nowhere close to suicidal, nowhere close to
being a danger.
Thinking that she would harm herself, her kids, Aaron, no one. Basically, that she kind of, like, based on the psychiatric score, she was a normal wife, mom, human, everything. Like,
just I'm normal and I have depression. So.
Same.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I deal with anxiety and depression. I deal with a lot of things, but
you're still a normal
I'm
person,
normal,
and you can
functioning.
You're not a danger to society,
right? Or myself,
right? Right.
But I guess that doesn't mean anything, because the court system seemed to not care at all about what those doctors had to say or the experience they had had with her. And on top of what they did testify about as far as her mental health, they also all stated that they believed that she was in a toxic, manipulative, and abusive relationship.
Which leads to depression. That's the only thing she was clinically given by these doctors, and they testified. And they testified to that, which I think says a lot.
That says a whole lot.
Because doctors, they have no reason to like lie about it.
No.
But I wonder if these judges that gave this order, because I know more about the judges later in this case, but I wonder if they had any connection to this family, because in another episode we'll explain it more, but all these people pretty much went to the same church. Their kids went to the same school and church. It's kind of like a private Christian school.
Yeah.
And some very prominent names will be dropped with it. There's some pretty high up people that go to the school, and their parents are lawmakers, they're judges, they're senators, governors, a lot of people. I mean, it's Nashville, it's the capital, so anyone that's prominent probably goes to a private Christian school in at least this area.
And there's actually a lot of private Christian schools, or private church-based or religion-based schools in that area. I mean,
I think that
Franklin, Brentwood.
Even here, I think there are a lot of Christian private schools.
There's like 3 times
in
Nashville.
Oh, I'm sure, because it's 3 times the city.
Yeah, it's like there's one on every corner, but they look like college campuses.
I know.
It's crazy.
Have you seen Baylor's campus?
The ones in Nashville, shit on
I bet.
Dude, the one that the state tournament was at a couple weeks ago.
So gorgeous. It's crazy that this is like an elementary, middle, high school, and
nuts.
It looks like a college.
Okay, there's one thing I feel like I didn't think to put on the list, because I didn't realize that it was in the middle of what we just talked about, but when no, it's about right now actually. When I guess it would be after basically when they go back to court and Angie is awarded with 2 hours, I guess the restraining order is up or the order of protection is up.
Right.
Um,
Well, I added from your notes to my notes.
This part.
Okay.
That happens like right in this section. But there was something else that I was looking for that you were just talking about.
All while this is happening between like 2013 and 2014, this is when Aaron has full custody, and when Angie is allowed to see them again, she notices that her kids don't look the same. Like Grant had lost like 25 pounds. Gracie, just seeing her little face, like her eyes were all like not bruised, but like black
circles,
under, like just exhausted,
super exhausted. Maybe even a little bit malnourished.
Yeah, because there were
like
yeah,
like a little girl. I mean, we're talking child, like super gnarly, puffy, dark circles around her eyes. Not like a black eye.
No,
just exhaustion and not healthy.
Yeah.
Like she looked ill.
Yeah, she looked sick.
Tired.
Yeah.
So tired.
And reports that
puffy too.
Because of all of his controlling and stuff, he was very controlling of his children. He would only allow them like fruits and vegetables and meat. Like there were no carbs
I
or
don't even think they
sugars.
could have vegetables.
Or fruit.
Fruit. They could have vegetables and meat. There was no starches, no grains, no fruit,
Dairy.
no sugar, no nothing. It was like water, meat, vegetables. That's it. And Grant at this point is was he 12 years old?
Yeah. Playing baseball probably in
like
middle
a stud
school.
little baseball player. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever why a 12 to 13-year-old kid who's an athlete, healthy kid, should lose 25 pounds in a year.
Yeah.
Unless he is like chronically ill. Like there's no world where that makes sense. And that sparks in my mind. I'm like, what pediatrician were they going to?
If the dad was taking them.
Yeah. Because that has to be reported as far as like being on their chart.
Yeah, like a medical.
And then any pediatrician, that's gonna be red flags.
I bet he didn't take them. He wants so much control over them.
You're
like
probably right.
I bet he just didn't take him.
Oh my god, what? There's the divorce hearing. That's what it was. When they have the divorce hearing and Aaron gets full custody.
Like 2 weeks after the order of protection or whatever, and they go back to court.
Angie's dad and her sister testified on Aaron's behalf.
That is crazy.
But there are also reports that she grew up in an abusive household.
Controlling household.
Yeah. Allegedly, her life growing up as a kid and teenager, it was very just as toxic. Yeah.
Maybe that's why she got into this, is because that's the only thing she knew. And she was pregnant and pressured, so that would make sense. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
I think, wow. Okay, give me your opinion on this, because this is mine. Do you think her family did that because Aaron has money and maybe they don't? Because I haven't found anything you found way more on Angie's family than I did.
I think it's a few things. In my opinion, I could see him being like a news anchor and, a board of this charity. I could see that being like, okay, that's the type of person he has at least a little bit of the status that we would want her to have. But in my honest opinion, I think that because she didn't necessarily want to get married, even when she found out she was pregnant, she
Mhm.
wasn't thinking like, oh, this is my forever person.
Mhm.
I'm not even sure if they were in like a real relationship or if they might have
Yeah.
just been dating and doing laundry together and
Mhm.
she got pregnant.
Mhm.
I think it was more about we cannot have our daughter have a child out of wedlock because that looks so bad. And I think Aaron might have shown controlling and manipulative behavior, and they thought that it was the perfect way to make her stay in the line of what they wanted the family to look like.
That would make sense too. I could see that too.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the case, but to me, that's what I think. They care so much about how their family looks
Mm-hmm.
and what people think of the family.
Yeah.
And because she doesn't really care and she's more about being a mother and being a doctor and a pharmacist, like she's just like, I just want to live my life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think they wanted someone next to her that could help them control the narrative
Yeah.
of their entire family.
Yeah. Some fucked up people.
Because if I were to get a divorce and my brother and my dad
Hell no.
testified on his behalf, I'm
No.
not saying they got to testify against him or get involved at all, but like if you're getting involved, it better be on my side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
That's crazy.
that's insane. But I wouldn't even want my family to be
Involved.
I mean, granted, I'm not married to a freaking abusive
narcissist.
asshole.
Right.
But
that is weird. He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like on another level though. Crazy. So
he stays ahead of everything.
He does. Controlling narcissist. Yeah, he does. He definitely does.
Yep.
So by 2014, after a year of all this, Angie's finally awarded a little bit of custody, like 2 hours of supervised visitation
a week.
No, that's nothing. That's
y'all
crazy. Oh my god.
Y'all, I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. If this was me, this is when I'd get my kids and we run. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm not 2 hours a week of
someone watching you
supervised visitation when you're not the crazy one.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how all this happened. I
don't either.
I know, and that's I think why it just drives
it's mind-blowing
people who love true crime because we just don't understand it. So she's awarded this 2 hours a week visitation.
Let's keep in mind there is absolute no report, no record, no witness, no anything from anybody
who says
that
she's
Angie has ever been abusive or a bad mom or could, besides Aaron claiming so, even doctors and psychiatrists said she is not. The kids never said anything about her. No one from the school, no one from the church. It's just him, her dad, and then her sister. And all she is, that's their mother.
I know.
And I would feel the same way about this if it were the other way around and they were only giving the dad that is continuously shown up to be a supportive, healthy parent. 2 hours of supervised visitation at these prime ages, that's insane. That is crazy. Kids need their parents, especially if they're not violent or at risk of harming themselves or their kids, you know?
And she was proven not to.
Yes, like that blows my freaking mind.
Yeah. Why didn't they look into him? Or look into the allegations at least, which is a recurring thing because
we'll
the whole story
about this for 3 days, y'all.
Yeah, we are. It's how much information is on this case.
Yeah.
So by 2015, this is when Angie's pretty much had enough. She is looking for as much help wherever she can. She's
documenting
everything.
Everything.
Any interaction with Aaron, like at pickup and drop-offs.
Anything that her kids are telling her from a standpoint of if they're calling her, like from being at the house with him or something that he had done, and they're calling her to tell her or calling her to beg her to come pick them up. There's anything and everything. She's documenting it all. Backtrack, when she was right before they got divorced, she sought out a therapist, basically just to try to figure out like how to handle her marriage, because she was being controlled and manipulated and certain things as far as like the affairs and cheating. I think she just was in a tough spot, not only in her marriage but mentally too, like just the depression I think was setting in. He was not comfortable, allegedly he was not comfortable with her seeing a therapist on her own, so he basically inserted himself in it and controlled that situation too by saying, I'll drive you and I'm going to sit in on these therapy visits. Ended up, I guess the therapist was really good at their job, because they ended up basically practicing with both of them. She was diagnosed with depression and I don't want to say mild, but not severe PTSD from her certain things from her childhood and abuse she endured as a child. And he was diagnosed with narcissism and sex addiction.
That backfired.
Right? Backfired big time.
Yeah.
So that was a couple keynotes ago.
Yeah.
But so he has been diagnosed with those two things. All right, go ahead.
Only because he was so narcissistic
in her therapy.
Yeah.
Her individual therapy.
I know. So crazy. So, 2015, Angie's had enough of all this and she's looking for help. She is reaching out to different people that she knows, whether that be in the church or the police department, or
Sheriff Jeff Long.
Yeah.
People at the school, like counselors.
Yeah, she's trying to get as much help as she can, and it's just like everyone is failing her.
Yeah.
I mean, in May of 2018, she contacts a lawyer because she's just not getting the help she deserves with all of this.
I know we're really going to dive super deep into this on the next episode, that it will be tomorrow. If you're listening right now, it will be tomorrow. She's also trying to get help for the kids as it pertains to them and the allegations of abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and the crazy controlling behavior, like, and just even like the malnutrition, the neglect. And we didn't talk about this before, but to me, it's like a big thing that while he had custody and they had to live with him, he had Grant, the son, his lock on his bedroom door was on the outside of the door. So he could lock Grant in his room. You could only unlock it or lock it from the outside of the room, whereas Gracie's bedroom lock was on the inside.
Yeah.
And even when they were still married, he would not let Angie bathe Gracie.
Yeah, I remember
only
us
he
talking about
could
that.
bathe her.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah.
And like we said, we're kind of backtracking, but there was another report where before they got divorced, it was Grant, Gracie, and Angie all in the master bedroom who slept together, and Dad was not in that room.
Yes, they
would lock themselves
in the master bedroom. The wife, the mom, and the son, or the wife, the daughter, and the son would all go to the master bedroom and lock themselves in there,
just to
whether
sleep.
it be during an episode or he wasn't home and they were going to bed, but they for a good little bit all shared the master bedroom away from him and would lock the door to keep him out of it. Yeah. So
crazy. So she's okay. So that all happened. This it's just been going on for so long. I think that's why we have so much. So in 2015, she gets help, or is trying to get help at least. She hires her lawyers. Between 2015 and 2018, lots of stuff happens. During this time, Aaron was getting about $100,000 a month. His aunt had an inheritance worth $1 million set aside for him, and he was getting about $100,000 a month. Um, Also, during this time, he calls the police on Angie and says she's back on child support. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, because they don't investigate, obviously. But she says that he says that she's not paying while he can very well afford $100,000 a month.
Yeah, there was I don't know if it was for I don't think it was for a number of years. I think his aunt passed away. He inherited this trust fund that she had set up for him, and he was receiving $100,000 a month for a number of months. And at this exact same time, when Angie is trying to seek help and trying to save her kids from this situation,
she gets put in jail.
Backfires and she gets arrested because when they approach him about this, when law enforcement approaches him about this, all he comes with is she's late on child support, so arrest her. And that's what happens. And the
master manipulation.
The kids just, stay with
what can they do?
With the person that everyone is claiming to be the abusive one. Mentally, emotionally, sexually, physically.
Yeah. I don't understand. What a nightmare, and it's still a nightmare. I mean,
it is still a nightmare.
We say we're only going through like 2002 to like 2020-ish.
We haven't even told y'all but the bullet points.
I know. I mean, there's like pages and
we're going off a whiteboard that we had to work for like hours just to put together for the first episode. I have a feeling this case is going to be like it's going to keep going and going and going because I just don't like it.
I know.
We gotta find a way to fix it.
To hone it in. So, like I said, between 2015 and 2018, a lot of stuff happens. Angie, gets this attorney. She files for emergency petition for neglect. And she's trying to get the kids like forensically interviewed with police who are under the sheriff Jeffrey Long, who she went to at the very beginning of all of this. In August, she gets the emergency petition for dependent neglect, and that is when CASA, which is like DCFS or Child
DCS,
Service,
CPS.
Yeah, that's what they call it. They call it CASA, and they're finally involved, and that's a whole another story.
Yeah, yeah, it is. One of the other things I think that is important is that while all this is going on, even through 2018, 2019, and into 2020, in February of 2020, the judge, who is a member of their church and also is married to a state representative, basically tells Angie that, basically files something that says that Angie cannot, at this point, Grant is about to turn 18, so it's just basically for Gracie, but that Angie, the mom, cannot file anything in court against Aaron for 72 months.
6 years.
And at this point, Gracie is 14.
Yep, so it would have been well after she would have turned 18 that they could do anything, which is insane. I've never even heard of that.
Me either.
But to the defense of it, between all this time, the 7 years of time after they, get divorced and whatnot, there are 278 entries in the Davidson County judicial system. 278 between Angie and Aaron. So, that's a lot. So I could see maybe that being the judge's defense, like, y'all been here way too much. We're gonna put a pause on it. But I've never even heard of that. Like, how can you just say you can? I don't want to see you in my court ever again, or for 6 years. Like,
yeah.
How can that be legal? How can that be right?
And only against one person.
I know.
So,
why not?
So she can't file anything, which means then, because at this point now she has custody because of the emergency petition for neglect. She can't file anything on behalf of her child, but he can.
I know. So weird. I've never even heard of that, which is crazy.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Never.
That's wild. Am I still green?
Yep, I am too.
Okay. Am I still green? Okay.
Okay, so we finished with the 2018 stuff, the emergency petition for neglect. Angie has custody. And they're just like getting away from their dad at this point, like at least trying and getting a little bit of success.
I think for them, if there's 7 days in a week, if they could be away from their dad for 5 days of the week, it's a win.
Yeah, it's better.
If it started at 2 hours and then went to 6 hours away, and then now they're primarily with their mom, to them, I think any little bit was a win.
Yeah, I think so too.
From what we know.
Yeah. So then this happens, and unfortunately we're out of time with the episode today, but again, I wanted to tell you we are going to be doing 3 episodes with this series. Monday, today, you're hearing this episode, then we'll have another episode tomorrow and on Wednesday, because there's just so much information to go on. So July of 2020, about a month after Grant turns 18. He is in an accident that takes his life. And the only witness...
Incident.
I know.
They filed it as an incident.
It was an incident report. It was not a crime scene, an accident report. It was an incident report.
For an 18-year-old who was showing up, more than likely from baseball mom experience, to either showcase or train for pitching for baseball, and probably in front of recruits, and was getting his baseball bag out of his truck.
The only person that was there and witnessed this was Aaron, the dad. So the only accounts we have of this is from Aaron, the dad.
And the 911 call.
Which says a lot. And we'll really get into that next episode, but
it was tragic too. Like, terrible.
Oh God, so
terrible.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get into as it pertains to the accident itself and what transpired and what allegations have been made since then. In my opinion, the lack of investigative work around Grant's death, and also a whole lot that we have to get into as well, as far as it pertains to allegations made about abuse toward the children throughout this entire time.
We'll kind of just start over.
from the kids' account,
right,
and reports and allegations and court documents and medical documents and school things and different recordings. But basically, what we went over today is it goes for Aaron and Angie and their marriage and the turmoil and the chaos that kind of happened. Tomorrow will be much more about leading into and telling about, like, from the kids' perspective and their experience, and obviously that the incident that led to the death of Grant, who was 18. I think, again, just to close out, everything that we have discussed is, some things are facts. They're either public record, or there is video evidence, or it is something that someone, a part of this story, has actually said on the record. Anything else is our opinion.
Yeah.
No one has been charged or convicted of any crime as it pertains to Grant's death, or any abuse that is alleged in this case.
And everyone, like we say at the end of every episode, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and that's where we stand. This is just the facts that we've seen and
a
our
little bit
opinion.
Of how we read it. Yeah. Our opinion on it, how we could see things from this side or all sides. And per usual, we would like to make sure that everyone keeps Grant's family in your thoughts and prayers, because, again, we're discussing a young adult's tragic death, which is never fun.
No.
And I hope we can find some justice in this case.
I know. I hope so,
I don't
too.
feel like any justice has been.
There's been
found
nothing
or served for any part of what I feel is wrong with this entire situation and experience that these people have gone through. So, with that being said, if you know anything that we have not mentioned, or that you feel like you can't share with anyone else about this case, or that you think might be helpful from any perspective or standpoint, like, it's not really about sides, it's just about justice. So if you know something or hearsay, feel free to reach out, because no one's getting justice in this case yet.
Yeah.
No one.
All
right, come back tomorrow.
Yes, and the next day. Because this case is wild. But for now, thank you so much for listening to the Expired Podcast.